Lin Li closed his eyes and opened his mind. He had come to this sacred place, beneath the Tree of Immortality, in the fabled city of Kunlun, to meditate on the current state of the universe and his place in it. And thanks to recent events, he had far more to ponder than he had ever imagined possible. Lin Li first reflected on how his own journey had brought him here. Not long ago, he was an ordinary young man living in Shanghai. Just another face in a sea of 24 million. That all changed when his father, an archaeologist, gifted him an ancient and mysterious sword. Lin Li would eventually learn that the blade was a divine weapon, known as the Sword of Fu Xi, which had been used to vanquish the demon Qiu 5 millennia ago. Pulled into a modern-day conflict between ancient mystical forces, Lin Li became the hero known as the Swordmaster. Wielding his legendary blade against countless foes. For a time, he fought alongside the agents of Atlas, a network of Pan-Asian heroes dedicated to combating global threats. But during a battle with a vicious Kumiho, Lin Li found himself gravely wounded and his sacred sword shattered. When Lin Li awoke from his injuries, not only was he on the shores near the mystical city Kunlun, he was also in the presence of the ancient dragon, Xiao Lao, the Undying. The dragon saved Lin Li's life by bestowing the boy with his powerful qi, thus granting Lin Li the power and mantle of the protector of Kunlun, the immortal Iron Fist. It was an honor that sent Lin Li's life spiraling in a whole new direction. But not even his newfound power could have prepared him for what was about to happen. A phenomenon known as the time stream entanglement was unleashed upon the multiverse by a pair of mad tyrants, causing entire dimensions to collide and collapse into each other. Though Kunlun's unique place just outside of reality had long kept it safe from such crises, this time the fabled city would not escape the cosmic conflict unscathed. As the time stream entanglement rippled through the pocket dimension in which Kunlun existed, the city merged with the other 6 capital cities of heaven: Kunzi, Penglai, Tiger Island, Zagambo, the Kingdom of Spiders, and the Undercity. In the past, these mystical realms had only existed in the same space every 88 years, converging for a great tournament between their champions, the immortal weapons. But now, they had been joined together far sooner than anyone could have anticipated. To make matters worse, all of the other immortal weapons, from Crane Mother to Fat Cobra, had vanished from this newly amalgamated Heart of Heaven. Lin Li was the only one of their number who remained. And he wondered why. Was it because he had not earned the power of the Iron Fist in the same method that his predecessors had? By plunging their fists into the heart of Xiao Lao? Was his legitimacy as the Iron Fist, and as an immortal weapon, in question? Or had the broken shards of the Sword of Fu Xi, which were now embedded within Lin Li's hands, somehow protected him from the fate that had befallen his fellow warriors? Lin Li didn't know, and meditating on the subject didn't provide him with the answers he had come to seek. Fortunately, a much-needed distraction had arrived. Lin Li opened his eyes to find a green mist floating around the Tree of Immortality. Although Kunlun was still as silent as death itself, its protector knew he was no longer alone. "A thief," Lin Li whispered, a smile coming to his lips. Perhaps a little action would put his troubled mind at ease. But how does one fight a mist? Lin Li readied himself for battle, focusing the entirety of his qi into his hand. Without warning, he felt someone strike him, first in the stomach, then in the face. It was almost as if he was being attacked by a ghost, a very strong ghost for that matter. As the mist blurred his vision, Lin Li swung his glowing fist blindly, delivering a mighty blow that split the fog in half. But even an iron fist can't do much damage to an intangible foe. The mist came back together again, swirling around the tree of immortality once more before vanishing altogether. Along with it, a single piece of enchanted fruit had vanished as well. Where? Lin Li gasped, surveying the area for any sign of his mysterious opponent. He caught a glimpse of the green fog rematerializing atop the wall surrounding the courtyard. Moments later, the mist coalesced into a distinctly human form. Lin Li couldn't identify the thief from this distance, but that didn't stop him from giving chase. Lin Li let out a cry of intense pain as he leapt into the air and pulled back his fists. Long shards of mystic metal, the remnants of the sword of Fu Shi, extended from the backs of his hands. He plunged them into the stone and used the blades to scale the wall with ease. By the time he reached the top, the thief was already on the run, racing over the rooftops of Kunlun as he effortlessly changed between his solid and misty forms. Lin Li did not have the same luxury, and found himself having to make extraordinary leaps between buildings in order to stay on the thief's trail. Every time Lin Li managed to get closer, the thief turned in a new direction, as if he knew every corner of Kunlun and the other capital cities by heart. "Who are you?" Lin Li wondered, picking up his pace. Soon, the thief diverted his path from the rooftops down to the lowest levels of the city. There, he reached a secret gateway that Lin Li had never seen before. "Stop!" Lin Li yelled, before the thief could cross through. The thief glanced back for a second, and Lin Li finally recognized who he was. The Prince of Orphans, the immortal weapon from Zagambo. But what was he doing here? Why was he stealing the enchanted fruit? And where in the heavens was he leading Lin Li? As the Prince of Orphans vanished through the gate, Lin Li noticed some symbols newly etched in the stone archway above it. Anhe Gd. Anhe Gd. The Land of Shadows. When Lin Li crossed through the gateway, he found himself in an unfamiliar realm. Certainly this wasn't part of any of the 7 capital cities he had visited before. He was in what seemed to be a thriving underworld, full of criminals and yaoguai, ancient demons. But there were also normal people walking the shadowy streets as well, going about their lives. Lin Li wished he had the time to explore this strange place to find more answers. But he knew he couldn't afford to lose track of the Prince of Orphans. Hopefully, his fellow immortal weapon could shed some light on this dark place. The green mist entered through the window of a small dwelling at the back of an alley. Lin Li did not hesitate to follow it inside. Upon entry, he was immediately attacked by the Prince of Orphans, who delivered his signature move, the Jaw Snapper in Twilight. Lin Li was instantly laid low by the brutal strike. "I expected better from an iron fist," the Prince of Orphans said, extending a hand to help Lin Li up off the ground. Lin Li rubbed his aching jaw. "Yeah, well," he replied, "I'm no Danny Rand, as everyone keeps reminding me." "I do not expect you to be," the Prince of Orphans said. "There were 67 iron fists before you, and there will be plenty more after. Do not try to be them. Strive to be the best you." The Prince of Orphans pulled the enchanted fruit he had stolen from this satchel. Its glistening golden skin had turned a deep, withered brown. Fun fact, Lin Li said, "As soon as a fruit is plucked from the tree of immortality, it begins to die." "I know," the Prince of Orphans said, dismayed. "I had just hoped I would get back here fast enough." Why do you even need it? Lin Li asked. You seem to be in pretty good shape for a guy your age, or any age. It is not for me, the Prince of Orphans replied, walking over to a basket in the corner of the room and pulling back a blanket. It is for her. Lin Li gazed into the basket to see an infant girl with pale skin, blue eyes, and strawberry blonde hair. She strained as she reached toward Lin Li, who instinctively backed away, knowing nothing about handling children. You have a kid? He asked. The girl is not mine, the Prince of Orphans replied. Or at least she wasn't. I found her during the war. Alone. Abandoned. I guess you lived up to your name, Lin Li joked. Then his face suddenly turned serious. Wait. What war? You have not ventured outside of Kunlun much lately, have you? The Prince of Orphans said. The Prince of Orphans began to explain how the very same chronal catastrophe that had caused the 7 capital cities of heaven to combine had also collapsed several timelines into each other. Now, the ancient forces and elder gods that lived in those timelines were waging an epic battle against each other for total domination. Though there were many forces fighting for the good of all dimensions, including a warrior child who had become a demon queen, a jade giant guarding the door to a nuclear purgatory, and a red sorceress holding reality together from a mountaintop in Europe. Their numbers were growing even smaller every day. Then what are we doing here? Lin Li asked. Why aren't we out there fighting? Some things must take priority, the Prince of Orphans said, motioning towards the baby, who let out a terrible cough and began to cry. She became sick, and so I had to seek refuge. Zagambo was not where I had left it, but I was offered refuge by Dizang. Little did I know it would lead me back home. In a way. Wait, I've heard of that, Lin Li asked, curious who this mysterious savior could be. He built this place, the Prince of Orphans responded, or at least remade it in his image. It used to be known as the 8th city. Wait, I've heard of that, Lin Li exclaimed. It was the prison realm for the 7 capital cities of heaven, right? And now, it is a refuge for all those who have been displaced by this war, the Prince of Orphans said, including me and little Lausa here. Lin Li looked back at the baby. The color was quickly fading from her cheeks. He knew she was struggling to survive, and he couldn't just stand there and let such an innocent creature continue to suffer. Hold on, he said, smiling gently as he took hold of the rapidly decaying fruit. A little of my chi should return this to peak freshness in no time. As Lin Li's hand began to glow, the fruit's skin turned back to its original golden hue. How can I repay you? The Prince of Orphans asked, immediately cutting the fruit with a knife and handing a small piece to his tiny ward to nibble on. I was always told you were one of the best fighters the immortal weapon ever had, Lin Li said. Clearly, I could use your help. I mean, I can hold my own, but I've got a long way to go before I reach your skill level. You never trained in the martial arts with Lei Kung? The Prince of Orphans asked. The Thunderer is big on tradition, Lin Li replied. I didn't exactly get my power in the most customary of ways, remember? I suppose I could teach you a thing or two, the Prince of Orphans said. Show me your guard stance. Wait, Lin Li said, surprised. Like right now. If you wish me to be your mentor, the Prince of Orphans replied sternly, you work on my schedule. If you truly hope to be one of the great Iron Fists, we need to start with close combat. Wing Chun. Then, we can move into some weapon techniques. Perhaps the Bart Cham Dao. The 8 cutting blades? Lin Li said excitedly. I like the sound of that. Before he could enjoy the moment too much, however, Lin Li's impromptu training session was interrupted by a pounding on the dwelling's door. I do not, the Prince of Orphans said, as he walked over to a small window and peered outside to see several armed Kunlun guards waiting in the alley. "Friends of yours?" the Prince of Orphans asked Lin Li. "I forgot to tell you," Lin Li responded, nervously rubbing the back of his neck. "Stealing fruit from the Tree of Immortality is punishable by death." "I find the irony amusing," the Prince of Orphans replied. "Those guys probably followed us to make sure I finished the job," Lin Li continued. "And are you going to?" the Prince of Orphans asked, curiously raising an eyebrow. Lin Li smiled at his new mentor. "No," he responded. "I'm going to convince them that some laws were meant to be broken." "With your fists?" the Prince of Orphans asked. "With my words," Lin Li replied. "Sometimes the biggest victories come from the battles we choose not to fight." The Prince of Orphans was impressed by the young Iron Fist's wisdom, but as he followed Lin Li through the door of his home and out into the alleyway, Kunlun's guards instantly raised their weapons, ready to strike. "I do not think they are interested in talking," the Prince of Orphans said, readying himself for the fight to come. "And so, Lin Li, your first lesson begins." As Lin Li began to focus his chi once again, a commanding voice rang out from the other end of the alley. "Enough," it yelled. "There will be no bloodshed on my streets." A man stepped forward, his body wrapped in cloth, so black it was hard to tell where he ended and the shadows began. "Dizong," the Prince of Orphans said, dropping to one knee and bowing his head in respect. "We meant no harm." "And none shall be delivered," Dizong replied. "These guards were merely doing their duty. But they are beyond their jurisdiction. They are free to go." "How about me?" Lin Li asked, as the guards turned and fled back to Kunlun. "You may stay," Dizong replied, "at your own risk. There are those here who wish to see the Iron Fist defeated, some of whom are bold enough to try to claim your power for themselves." "Bring 'em on," Lin Li said confidently. "Just as Kunlun is yours to protect," Dizong continued, "this city is mine. Should you disrupt the delicate balance I have created here, you will answer to me." With that, Dizong effortlessly leapt between the walls of the alleyway, back and forth, as he ascended to the rooftop above. As he reached the top, he paused a moment and silently peered down on Lin Li. The full moon shone behind him, framing Dizong's silhouette in a way that sent chills down Lin Li's spine. "So," the Prince of Orphans said, as Dizong disappeared into the shadows. "Where were we?" Lin Li honestly wasn't sure how to answer that question. But suddenly, he was desperate to find out. Brackets.